Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there around the world. It's time to plug in and get this train and chugging. It's a big news day today, the 30th of June. Can you believe it is already the end of June? Time flies when you're in quarantine, I guess. It's been a weird year so far, and we're just about halfway done. National security abominations. Ooh, that's such a good word. Now, some of you out there may have heard of the Abominable Snowman, or also known as the Yeti in some cultures. And it's some big furry white creature that lives in the Himalaya and kills sheep and people or something. That's about the only time you ever really see the word abominable, and it's not so often you see abominations. This is actually quite biblical in a way, because it's something that is morally revolting or sinful. It's something absolutely that turns your stomach and is a crime against all that is good in the world. And actually, interestingly, the prefix ab means away from, and the root of the word actually comes from hominin. And so it's ab hominin, meaning away from man or away from human. It is a crime away from, or then I guess you could say almost against humanity. Now, moving on here, we've got pandering to. And so we got from A, pandering to Putin, to B, which is abusing allies, and C, ignoring his own advisors. So from A to B and further on to C, Trump's phone calls alarm U.S. officials. Most people know of an alarm, as in the clock that wakes them up in the morning, and here on the show we've had it as an adjective. Something is alarming, which means causing worry and so on. But here, in this case, to alarm somebody means to draw attention and cause worry. And so these people, the U.S. officials, are worried about his actions. Now, pandering to somebody, such good vocabulary, and it actually ties into something, well, the leading headline from yesterday, to indulge something. Now, we've got to indulge in something, which means just to take part in and participate in something that you enjoy very much. However, to indulge somebody or to indulge something is to satisfy the needs or desires of that person. Similarly here with pandering, this is basically a synonym in ways, but with pandering to somebody or pandering to something, the end goal is nefarious, it's evil, it's bad, it's wrong. And so he's pandering to Putin. Just like you'll see sometimes in the newspapers, they are pandering to people's baser instincts, or they are pandering to the underlying racist sentiments that exist within much of the population. Really kind of just telling somebody what they want to hear in order to please them, trying in a way to curry favor with them. Now, interestingly, to curry favor. Curry, yes, like the spice, C-U-R-R-Y. However, it has absolutely nothing to do with the spice whatsoever. To curry means to brush and clean a horse. And so to curry favor with someone or from someone means that you're like grooming them and petting them and cleaning them in order to win their favor. And so, yes, that's also what he's doing here. Okay, enough about that. Moving on. Not so far, and not so far off topic. Yesterday we were talking about the bounty that Russia was putting a bounty on the heads of U.S. soldiers for the Taliban, encouraging them to kill the U.S. soldiers. And it was a plot. It was a scheme. A plot, not just the storyline in a book or a movie or a play, but in this case a plot is a scheme, a complicated plan, usually having evil sort of goals. Whoop! Trump is facing the thing he dreads the most. To dread something is to be afraid of it, to fear something. Now, but if you're dreading, it's more of kind of like a mortal fear, a fear for your life. The thing that he dreads most, losing. If you are sadistic, and it means you enjoy inflicting pain and suffering upon other people. It actually does come from the Marquis de Sade, the famous French author and, one could argue, pervert. Outrage, normally we see it on the show, and almost daily, if not daily, as an uncountable sort of abstract noun, the reaction of the people against the actions of a person. However, in this case, it's used as a countable noun, and it's used for the actual actions which cause or prompt the outrage and backlash from society. And so it's just a slightly different usage and far less common. We've had it many times on the show before, and I don't have my guest star broom to demonstrate sweeping, but we're talking about the pandemic, how it has swept the globe, how its different fads or trends will sweep across the globe. But in this case, it's a sweeping national security law. So here, it's being used as an adjective, not as a verb. And if it's sweeping, like we always say, it covers a large area in a quick fashion. And so if it's a sweeping law, it's basically governing every aspect of society. It's all encompassing. Yeah? Great. Moving on. Great little phrase here. China is to hit US with a tit-for-tat, and it has nothing to do with tits or tats. A tit-for-tat just means like if you poke me in the eye, I'll poke you in the eye. You do some damage to me, I'll do it back to you. That's basically the exact meaning of that phrase. Tit-for-tat is I'll get you back in the same way that you got me. Why? Because they're curbing visas. To curb something means to bring it to a stop. Just like a car, if you're going to park your car, you pull to the side of the road and you park next to the curb. Bad habits, curb spending. Yes, question, we're pretty much always used in a negative way because it's involving some sort of damaging action or penalty against one or the other. Yeah, it wouldn't be like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of situation. If you do me a favor, I'll do a favor. It could be, but I think that typically it's used for negative things. Moving on. Has been sentenced to 5 years in jail. Wow, another politician going to prison. 5 years, and if you're an ex-prime minister, you're probably fairly old, and so there's a good chance he might die in jail. Moving on to fairy tales. And that's actually stories about fairies, nothing magical here. In the last decade, lots of different fairies that have sunk, but it was more like in the Philippines or Indonesia between islands. This was actually just a ferry taking people across a river in Bangladesh. And it sank very rapidly after colliding with a larger boat. And a lot of people died. Dozens of people have died or are missing. One thing, I actually did skim the article, and I was fascinated to find out the river is like 60 feet deep. It's like almost 20 meters deep there. As usual in some countries, there aren't a lot of regulations, or people skirt the regulations and they overload the ferries, and then if there's any sort of technical difficulty, people can't escape. And to sink in 20 seconds, that's remarkably quick. To plead innocent or to plead guilty in court, years-long rape and killing spree. God, the word killing spree, we see that too often. A spree, technically, is to engage in an activity that you find enjoyable for a short period of time, but too much. So to go on a shopping spree implies that you're spending too much money or buying too many things over a short period of time, but it's something that you enjoy doing. A prank is a joke which is played upon people for fun. It's often a practical joke, something kind of silly. Into poop news. People are defecating outside the Queen's vacation home. To defecate is a nice fancy word for to poop. Yay! So people are pooping outside the Queen's vacation home in Scotland. I just had to open the article and skim through it while I was actually having some toast. One of the few occasions where I've actually eaten before the show. But yes, I thought maybe it was some sort of protest or something. However, the castle gardens are open, but there are no public bathrooms available for miles and miles and miles, and the castle's public bathrooms are also closed, and so people are just pooping in the castle grounds. Ah, good morning, Nedim. Nothing like waking up to poop stories, huh? Nice to see you. Balmore Castle staff, they were just concerned that people were using sanitary wipes that were non-biodegradable. And so, true to the point, I see their point. I thought they'd be more upset, but hey, go green, huh? Go green when you're going brown. Sorry, couldn't resist. Felt suicidal. That's just an adjective related to suicide, which is killing oneself. And with most crimes, and that is a crime, it's an abomination. Ooh, vocab from the headlines. Commit murder, to commit suicide, to commit arson, to commit theft, burglary, fraud, etc. Don't ask me why, that's just the verb that we use with crime. Moving on. From poop with the Queen to Katy Perry feeling suicidal to nuclear leak. Yay! We've had to leak before. You have containers, which are designed to contain liquids or gases, and if there's maybe some sort of hole or a problem with the rubber gasket which holds the lid on, then some of the materials which were intended to be contained are able to escape, and that is a leak. We've had petroleum leaks, we've had other chemical leaks, and now we've got nuclear leaks. But we don't know. They denied it. Who knows? I don't. Everything is good in moderation. If you go above moderate, then it becomes excessive. That's not good for, well, really any part of your body. And especially as well your cognitive health. We're just gonna move on to sports news and violence and burning. Because Liverpool has finally won the title after 30 some years or so on, and people of course were celebrating, and in England football celebrations mean destruction. Pleading with the fans, please stop burning and destroying things and shooting fireworks at government buildings and so on. Oh yeah, and social distance, you guys, come on. Next on to LGBTQI plus news. A Spanish town decks itself in pride flags after the town hall was forced to take its banner or flag down. Easiest way to remember this, it's basically to decorate. So to deck yourself in, or then it's often used in a passive sort of as an adjective, to be decked out in some sort of style of decorations, to be decked out in very elaborate costumes. Yeah? Okay, that's it. Indians are hailed as a model minority. To be hailed as something is to be considered and called. To hail, just like you can go, taxi, taxi. That's to hail a cab. Indians are considered and called a model minority. Unlikely just means improbable. Unlikely, improbable. Just like we have something is likely, it means it is probable, or we talk about the likelihood of something happening, that's the probability of it happening. Phrasal verb, and I've used this example so many times, but it's never been the actual headline here, and so, yes, to wipe something out means to erase it from existence. They went extinct. But we all know that's not real because the world's only 6,000 years old. Here we got two phrasal verbs in a row. This was on the show a while ago. I don't know why it keeps coming up in the headlines or how it's news, but those risks have paid off. She is now gaining the benefit from having taken those risks. Yeah, and so often risks don't play out well and you end up losing. However, for her, they have paid off. If by nothing else, by getting constant publicity and exposure in CNN's headlines. To pull something off. Now, phrasal verbs always have multiple meanings. We're sticking with the one that is here in the title. To pull something off means to manage to do something despite the odds or the probability of it not succeeding. Because yes, I mean, to do an awards show right now with the distancing and all of these things, there were so many challenges that they were facing, yet they managed to succeed and they pulled it off despite all defying expectations, defying all probabilities. They managed to succeed. Chinese coffee people, we had it before, delisted. They're going to be taken down off the stock exchange after defrauding investors. They were misrepresenting sales. They were fabricating sales, just making up numbers, pulling them out of the thin air, basically. And so, yes, they defrauded investors. Fraud is a financial crime in which people are tricked into giving up their money. There's insurance fraud, many different types of fraud, and to use it as a verb is to defraud somebody. Trick them into giving your money. Some very fraudulent behavior, to use it as an adjective. Street vendors saved China from a jobs crisis. Yes, because that's the solution to fixing the economy, is having people out on the street selling hot corn and media dolma and maybe, I don't know, other knickknacks and doohickeys and thingamabobs and whatchamacallits. Yeah, I don't think that street vendors are going to be the solution to the jobs crisis. Yeah, it might put food on the table, but that's not a way to turn your economy around there. Popular and spreading across America. It's swept the nation, but it's also a robbery magnet. Interesting, yes. A magnet attracts other forms of metal, yes, and so if something is a magnet for something else, it means it attracts those things. Just like people always tell me that I have a magnetic personality, if not a magnetic odor. No, that's right. My odor is just alluring, and it's not an odor, it's an aroma, a fragrance. The Facebook ad boycott is starting to rattle investors. If you're rattling, you shake it like that, and so then they are shook, they have been shaken, they are disturbed. And the investors are disturbed and they are upset, and so they have been rattled. Facebook stock dropped 8% or something. And for any students out there, a drop of 8% could, yes, change you from an A to a B. But it might not sound like that much, really. Why worry about it? Because 8% is equal to $56 billion in losses. And so, yeah, Facebook and the investors are starting to listen. I think it's 150 brands now have jumped onto this bandwagon, including Coca-Cola, Starbucks, and those are two of their largest actual ad buyers. Vote with your wallet and push corporations to do the right thing. All right. And I said, what $2 billion? That $2 billion never existed. Something tells me it's in somebody's pocket. So the company has collapsed, imploded, the house has crumbled, and it is no longer functional, and a lot of people now can't access their cash. In this new world of fintech, financial technology, there's lots of different services and banks that are popping up left and right. However, we need to be careful where we put our money. As more people lean on online shopping, think twice about how you pay. Now, this is kind of just a weird thing to say, to lean on online shopping, like they're using it for support. I would say as they lean into it, meaning they're doing more and more of it, they're becoming more and more comfortable in doing more of it. And I know even we are. But yeah, to lean on something for support, good times were had by all. Those were the headlines for today, Tuesday the 30th of June. In the US, they'll be going into the 4th of July. Fireworks, probably, then some wildfires all over the country. And then we get to read about those headlines as they rage and they blaze through the countryside. Thank you for tuning into Breaking News. This is English Otherwise. Most people know me as Mr. Janes, but if you made it this far, you can call me Cameron. Thanks for all the likes, subscribe, follows, pass us along to a friend. Stay tuned, more on offer, and if I don't see you sooner, and I might this evening, I'll at least then see you at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Alright? Bye-bye. Stop the stream. Yeah. Yes, stop it. Stop it. Bad boy.